let's start here. How do different generations communicate with each other? The baby boomers like to talk on the phone. They're comfortable reading an email. They don't necessarily like to text, and they just don't really get social media. Gen Xers, they're really comfortable with an email. They like email, they get texting. Their communication is a little bit different in how they understand and talk to each other. It's different and distinct from baby boomers. It's the next generation Y group that's a problem for most baby boomers because they think differently. They grew up on their cell phones, texting underneath the desk. All I did was pass notes back and forth. They texted. So they can multitask in different ways. They're hardwired differently. The next gen, which is on the Gen Y's turn the baby boomers on their heads. The next group is the Gen Z group. That's the kids coming up right now. This group is literally hardwired differently in their heads, even more so than the Gen Y people. They think differently. They've got connections and wiring in their brains because they've been using technology since day one. Because of that, baby boomers, Gen Xers, you don't even have the connections. Your brain's not wired the same way as these kids. That's why they're going to understand technology quicker than previous generations. So that's why when how was school today and your daughter says, read my blog, they're comfortable with that. A lot of people who are baby boomers and Gen X say, I don't want to write a blog. What do I write a blog about? Write a blog about specific things. How was school today? They're comfortable with that. That's how they communicate. That's how they learn. Second piece of technology that's changed, and again, this is across those generations, is I learned how to use a typewriter in college. Laptops replaced typewriters. And today, tablets and mobile computing are replacing the laptop. That's overlaid with something else, Web 2.0 and Web 1.0. Now, Web 2.0 happened a while ago. Web 1.0 was looking at a billboard. You look at the billboard, you read the billboard, you don't interact with it. Web 2.0 are websites where people are engaging, forums, where you can post a question. This is where social media comes in. Facebook, I can ask a question, the company can respond. Twitter, the same way. LinkedIn, the same way. YouTube, the same way. So these things are all happening together. So you've got hardware changing and software and cloud computing all evolving at the same time, and they're feeding off of each other in development. So that's the backstory. Now we're going to talk about how people learn things. There's this thing called NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming. And NLP is really simple. It's based upon how the eye connects to the brain. So we all know that the optic nerve goes right into the brain. And we know that there's a left side and a right side to the brain, and there's triggers there. We know that the right side of the brain is creative. That's where the creative process comes from. So what NLP does, and a number of very famous rich people have talked about this and done motivational speech, but there's some physics and psychology to it. If you look up and to the right, you're making stuff up. We already know this as part of conversations. When you're talking to somebody, if you look up to the right, that's like pressing an accelerator down to the right side of your brain. So when you're talking to somebody and or your kid says to you, hey, how's your school project? Did you finish it? And they're like, sure. Which way are they looking? So, but you know all this. Intuitively you know this. You don't need to study to do this. This is the stuff you learn. So how do you know when somebody's not telling you the truth?